Thank you very much for coming along, and welcome to this virtual staff room. It's been a while for me because I managed to miss the last one because I was away for my wedding anniversary, which is lovely in the Peak District. And it should hopefully just be loading now. We're not on page 1, so we'll go from the very beginning. There we go. So I always have to show the first slide because Chris delights in pointing out when I get it wrong, but I remember to correct it this time. So here we are. These are the updates from Google for the end user for April 2023, and there's quite a number actually, which is some weeks it's we're struggling to fill the time out with 10 minutes and we're done. This week I think that certainly won't be the case. So I'm sure you're aware, because I think most people on the call, English is your first language or the language of your domain. You get grammar suggestions from Google when you're writing in Google Docs and things. That scope is extending out to 4 more languages. So if you've got students in your organization where English isn't their first language and it is one of those 4, they can always switch between the languages to get the benefit of that grammar suggestions, which means they get to a better final document, which is great news. And I presume that will continue. That takes the number up to 10. English, Portuguese, French, Spanish, German, and Italian with the other 6, I think, if I remember rightly. And then these 4 make 10. So there's now a growing number of languages that you get grammar suggestions with, which is good. Google Sites has had a few uploads, so I'll put them all on the same one here. When you are in a text field inside a Google site now, you will see other collaborators' cursors, so you can actually see if they're editing that document at that page at the same time as you. You can make adjustments to the page frames within it and change the color around the back and things. You can adjust the site width because it is quite a squishy. It's quite common for people to have wider screens now, isn't it? So actually it is quite a squishy final published site, so it's nice that you can do that. And then there's some additional things which you can see in the GIF there, where you can set the alignment of buttons and adjustments. So tiny little changes, but all these things going towards a slightly better control. Dave and I both bemoan the fact that we've still not got page level permissions, but let's hope one day, who knows, it may well still arrive. We'll have to see. So that's that. Those of you who are on Education Plus, I've got access to Cloud Search. And these 2 new tools, the Personalization Boost and the Click Boost, is basically a way to make sure that things surface a bit more usefully. So things that you click on and move up your ranking. So you've got your own personal ranking that Google kind of keep track of, so that when you go back to do a search again, they'll remember the ranking. If you're doing similar searches, those documents will appear near the top of the search. But it'll also do it for other users, for all users, in fact, across your organization. So if there's a pattern of searches happening within an organization for a particular set of search criteria, then those will also start to appear up at the top of your search criteria as well. So it should hopefully mean that the things you're looking for appear near the top quicker and a bit easier. And I think that one of the things that I think Chris and I have said before is that, and it could just be an age thing with me, that sometimes when I do a search in Gmail and it's been a long time ago since I'm communicated with a particular person, and I'm thinking, did they attach a document? Was it, and knowing the precise search term to search for, I don't always necessarily get the result that I want. But if I do the same or similar search in Cloud Search, then I do. So I would encourage you, if you've got Cloud Search within your domains, to encourage your staff to use it, because I think it's enormously powerful. If you're unfamiliar with it, it basically is a Google search across your account, but it doesn't share any break any sharing permissions. So if Chris has got 6 documents on Soundtrap and I search and he's shared 3 of them with me, I only see the 3 that he's shared with me, of course. I don't see the others because that would break the sharing permissions. So it's a really powerful tool. And it'll be in your waffle button. You can get to it from there, or cloudsearch.google.com will get you there. So that's that one. Google Chat, I'm going to skip this one because actually I think that I've done a slide that I'll come back to that one. Over the last year and a bit, there's been a whole load of very substantial improvements to Google Chat, of which that one that I've just skipped is one of them. So there's a whole load of things, and I think it's part of the realization that organizations, once they discover chat, find them to be enormously useful, because you can do such a lot in there. And it's not that you aren't getting in more or less messages, they're going into a different place, and it sets a different focus for you, so it makes your workflows that bit more efficient. You can now have multiple space managers. You're getting better space management tools. You're also going to get space management tools on the admin panel coming soon. Kind of all the inline threaded conversations for new spaces are there now, and they're really useful. So you can continue kind of conversations in an additional panel and things. You can have up to 8,000 people in a single chat space now, and it just means that it's all kind of getting better and getting a more and more useful tool. And I know for certain C-Learning use them in a huge amount, and we also use them with our customers, and we've seen a lot of use of customers up use of that particular tool because they've discovered it and find it enormously useful. The other part to that is that Currents, which was kind of Google's Facebook, I suppose, is going. You won't have access to it from 5th of July, and you won't be able to take any of your data out from the 8th of August. So if it might just be worth, I don't know, Dave might know, is there actually a report on Currents in the admin panel? Can you see if anyone's using it?
Good question. I'll have a look.
Yeah, thank you. But I didn't realize James was on there. Hi, James, you might know. Because it might just be worth telling those who do use it, you're going to lose it, because I think their intention is it will all go into chat. That's the point. That's where all those kinds of things will happen, because you can now have up to 8,000 people in a single chat space. Then you've got that community that you can have there rather than in Currents. And I think the usage of Currents has been so low that I'm surprised it's taken them that long to actually decide to get rid of it, but they have. And then just very quickly to go back into this last one, this is just a summary of some of the things that are there that you're able to do. But the one that I didn't mention in the kind of all the functionality in Google Chat is the thing about restricting postings to the space managers only. And I'm thinking, why would you do that? And it just dawned on me, if you want it just like an information board for your school, particularly with that for all your staff, you know, the very largest universities and FE colleges might have 8,000 staff, but you know, a very significant percentage of all education institutions, 8,000 would be more than enough to put all their staff into a single chat space, and you could use that as your notice board. So it doesn't require a discussion. That might happen elsewhere, but they need to be informed about various things. It might well be that it becomes a useful space for that. So you can restrict it so that only space managers can post messages, which is what that announcement's about. So that's all the things that are happening in chat, and like I say, they're very, very substantial because I think Google are keen for that to happen. Then the last little bit is that they're modernizing the interface, so you'll see the fonts changing and the layout changing and a slight redesign of some of the buttons maybe. So that's imminent as well. So that's all the chat ones. There's a slight streamlining of the location picker. So if you're selecting files in Google Drive and moving them, in the past you have to navigate through the kind of the folder system inside Google Drive to find the location where you wanted it to go to. You're now getting suggesteds based on your recent activity. So places that you've been to before to save files to, those will come up in the suggested. It just means that moving files into one location is actually that little bit quicker if you choose to use that right click to do that. I have to say, when I move files in my Google Drive, I tend to just select them and drag them across to the menu on the left. And if you weren't aware of it, if you've not got the menu open to the right folder, if you grab a file and drag it over to, for example, the My Drive icon, it will expand out, and then you hover over another folder and it will expand out. So it kind of expands out to the location you want to go to, which is kind of the way I tend to do it. But either way is correct. You can do it either way, and you've just got that suggested locations will start to appear now if they're not already there. So that's in Google Drive. So Google, I've had lots of questions about practice sets these last few weeks. Google announced very recently that practice sets is now generally available. When they say generally available, it's only the very center of the world, which of course is the United States, he said sarcastically. So if you happen to have your language in your domain set to English US, then you are on either teaching and learning or the education upgrades, education plus upgrade, you will now have practice sets. They are available. If you aren't and you've stuck with English GB or another language, then you won't have them. Okay, so if you want to get access to them now, let me go back to that slide. I'm going to quickly give you a couple of links. So there are 2 links. One is a request for me to get your you on the trial, and the other one is from Google, where you've got to fill that out. It's the same thing basically, but it's there are terms and conditions. So the second one has to be completed by a super admin, because they have to agree to the terms and conditions. So if you complete those 2, then I can then send that request on to Google, and I can get you access early. The predicted date time scale for access to us is to do it on Q3, so from June onwards sometime, so end of June onwards rather. So you've got another couple of months to wait. If you want it now, fill the forms out and I can get it expedited, so you'll get access that bit earlier. So just if you do that for me, I'll get in touch with my Google lead with you. Yeah, you should have to agree to spell everything with a Z, said Caroline. She's talking about English US. So anyway, you've got the solution there. If you want it early, do please fill out the forms. If not, you'll have to wait till Q3, which is be fine because it'll be in time for the new term, won't it? So it should be perfect timing. So that's practice sets. Okie dokie. This is a reminder from last month. I don't know how I knew that, but assistant reminders in Calendar are going, and they're going to be pushed into Google Tasks. So it feels a little bit like this is Google kind of focus on chat is moving stuff to chat, and that's why currents are going. So stuff that's in Calendar currently being moved into tasks to try and get the usage of tasks up, which kind of suppose is sensible because it means they can focus that much more on getting those tools to do all the things that they need them to do in order for them to be useful tools that more people use. So if I am right, then my prediction is that tasks will start to get more and more functionality over the coming months, just to allow it to do all the tasks that might currently be covered by reminders and things. So, but just to be aware of that it's reminders will go and everything gets pushed into tasks. So again, if people are using reminders, they need to know that that's going to happen, because it'll be a bit of a shock if they're not aware and it's sudden one day it turns on and suddenly they can't find the reminders. So that's that. So you can now turn off, I was going to see whether I can actually do it now. You can turn off video feed for selected tiles in Google Meet. No, I haven't got I can remove you, I can mute you, but I can't currently turn your video off. But that is coming. So you'll be able to turn off the video feed for certain people. So if someone has suddenly taken a call and is getting very animated and very angry, you think it might be a distraction, for example, then you could turn the video feed off until they finish the phone call and calm down, or they're in the shower or whatever it happens to be. So you've got the option to turn video off. You've been able to turn the audio off for quite some time. I'm presuming the video will turn off in exactly the same way as audio. You can turn people's audio off, but you can't turn it back on for them. They can turn it. You can prevent them turning it back on, but they can turn it back on. And I suspect it'll be the same with the video, that you can turn it off, but they will have to turn it back on for themselves at their end. So just to be aware of that. This has been there a little while. I've seen some of our, I think Jamie using this, for example, letting us know how he's going to be joining. When you RSVP for an invitation, the yes button, if you look on the yes button now, there's a drop down, and you can say whether you're going to be meeting in face-to-face or you're going to be joining online. Excuse me. So it just allows people to specify how they're going to be joining the meet, should they want to, which is really quite useful. But I think that's been there for quite a little while. I don't know why that's suddenly popped back up again. But it's linked to, I think it will do it automatically if you use the location thing in your calendar. So if you've got location set to Kuala Lumpur and the meeting's in London, then it'll almost, I think it defaults to, I'm going to join online, but you've also got the option to use the drop down to select how you will choose to join. So you've got that option there, but I think it does it automatically if you're using the location in your Google Calendar. So this is new to Teaching and Learning and Education Plus. And you may have been in those meetings where you get, next slide, please. Next slide, please, because everyone's sharing the same presentation. And it's fine, isn't it? It doesn't particularly bother me, but perhaps it did bother other people. But you can now set it so that more than one person can manage the slide deck. So you can be you and the other presenter. So when it's their turn to present their section, they've got access to the presenter, which does, I suppose, means you haven't got the Debbie McGee syndrome of having to have an assistant to advance your slides for you. So it's kind of quite nice to do that, I suppose. So you've got that option, which is great. I really like, I'm using the kind of the menu bar inside Google Slides, because it means I can see that there are still people on the call and I haven't bored you to death and you haven't left. I really like this. I think it's great. Because I can see, I don't know if you've seen, but I've shared the slide deck into the in-call messages already. It does that automatically. I can add a co-presenter here now on this same slide deck. I can also show my speaker notes all within the same place. It's really, really useful to be able to do that, actually. So that I will really like this new control of my slide deck from within Google Meet. It's really useful. We use it a lot. Okay. Google Earth. I love Google Earth. I think it's a fantastic tool. I'm sure your geographers would, should, or will, if you show them, love this thing. And they've added a little bit more data. They've added 21 to 22 data. So you've now got time-lapse data. And lots of these, the video I've got there is one that's on YouTube. There are lots of them on YouTube, and they're fascinating to watch. These are these circular farms where you've got this massive, great big arm that waters them by just rotating around in a circle in the desert in Egypt. And it's just fascinating to see how things change over time. Well, you've now got an extra year of data. So you've got data from 1984. This is satellite data from 1984 all the way through to 2022, which is an astonishing thing. So if you're doing social geography, about kind of land usage and development and things, it's a fantastic resource for your geography teachers to see and use. So I would encourage you to go and look at that. And that's on Google Earth. And there's a whole load of them on YouTube, including that one I've just put in this slide, which is great. Oh, this keeps happening. So Bard now helps you code. It just doesn't let you steal the GIF that they've made of it using the code. So you can now put code into Bard and ask it to troubleshoot it, or you can ask it to write a piece of code that does a particular thing. And it does a whole load of languages: C++, JavaScript, Python, of course, because Google uses that loads, and some others. I think there's 20 plus coding languages that you can use, and it will help troubleshoot. It will build stuff in that given language. And I know for a fact Jamie did this not on Bard but on ChatGPT, I think, with some code, and showed it to a developer, and the developer was really blown away by how accurate it was. So
yeah, it on that point, Paul, it basically wrote the program correctly. So and that's when you think about the implications of that, it's immense, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because this, well, for example, for education, I know it's maybe a controversial point, but we're still teaching in many organizations how to code, and maybe we always should. So I'm not saying we shouldn't do that, but maybe we just need to be mindful of the fact that where we're going, in fact, right now today, we have AI tools where if you specify the program correctly, and that's where the skill is, the curation of robust specifications. So you've got to have the underpinning knowledge. You've got to know what the program's supposed to do. You've got to know whether the outcome is going to look right or not. So there's all of that critical knowledge you need. But now you just don't necessarily need to be doing the boring bit of typing it all in on a keyboard, because ChatGPT wrote a program for me in the space of about a matter of seconds that would have taken a coder, probably a day or so, or maybe a couple of days to do previously. So it was quite an interesting exercise.
Yeah, no, it's a fascinating thing, and I keep saying this. Socrates said this 2,500 years ago. We've got to ask better questions. That's the challenge with this ChatGPT. With all these AI tools, we use it to ask questions. And as Jamie said, you've got to understand. If a kid's even using it for an essay, they write the original specification, challenge the AI to deliver. They've got to know the subject well enough to know how good the response is, because it does make errors. It continues to make errors, and it will tell you that. They all do. They all announce that we're not perfect. There will be errors. So you need to know the subject so you can adjust your parameters to resubmit, to refine, and get to a better answer. And that
I think that's the exact point. I think just on the particular point we're talking about AI, I think it will save us so much time, because I think it'll do a lot of the tasks that we find boring or aren't the best use of human skills and human abilities. So I think that I'm optimistic about it. I think that we'll be able to spend a lot more time on the higher value activities humans were probably always supposed to be doing. But I think the key point is what you just said, Paul, in terms of you have got to know how to test the outcome. Because, for example, I was recently doing something with an AI tool and it made stuff up in a report. So it was referencing and analyzing a report, but it also added some to it that just wasn't in the report. And I only knew that because I'd actually read the report.
Yeah.
So you've still got to put the effort in. It's not a shortcut to always to not having to do the homework. You have, because there are still a number of flaws, and maybe there always will be with AI tools. But there's no getting away from the fact that it's potential to save us strategic amounts of time and effort, so we can focus on things we enjoy more, that are the more higher level human sort of applications. The potential is just immense, and that's why I think it's so exciting.
Yeah, no, I agree. Absolutely. Thanks very much for that, Jamie. So yeah, so Dave, you're quite right. I do need to ask Bard, how the hell do I get that PNG GIF to actually load? I've tried about 6 times. It keeps just not showing. I don't know what's wrong with it, but there we go. Moving on. So I haven't checked. I meant to check this morning, but I haven't checked. But the discovery tool, like the search, if you like, the help search that appears in the help menu in Docs, Sheets, and Slides, is now going to appear as a menu item in the toolbar. So you don't have to go to the toolbar to do it. You can go straight to that point. It's exactly the same search thing, but it just means it's more visible. So it means you don't have to go looking for it, which I think is really nice. Makes life that little bit simpler, doesn't it? It's all about that. It's just efficiency. One less click gets you there that little bit quicker, which is fantastic. Okay, and you just type in your search parameters and it should suggest what it wants you to suggest. Excellent. Good. More improvements in the smart chips that are now in Google Sheets. And you can actually get little smart chips for YouTube videos now and turn it into a little chip. What you can't do yet is you can't preview the video. If you have a smart chip of a video in a Google Doc and you hover over it, in the bottom right hand corner you get the option to preview it inside the Google Doc, which is really neat. You can do it with slides as well. So if you've got a scheme of work with links to slide decks and YouTube videos, as your staff are looking through it in preparation for delivery of that scheme of work, they can look at the documents in a little preview pane inside the Google Doc, which is fantastic, without having to open the whole thing. They can scroll through it and look at what they need to know, get a flavour of it, and then move back to the scheme of work to complete their work. So you can put a chip in Google Sheets for YouTube videos, but you can't yet preview it. I suspect that will come, but you can't yet preview it, or you couldn't when I tested it on Friday anyway, in Google Sheets yet. But like I say, my prediction is that will be the next thing, that you'll be able to preview slides and YouTube inside Google Sheets. Let's hope that arrives, because that'd be useful as well. But the chip is already there. You can turn it into a chip. Okay, Google Arts and Culture. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this before. I mean, it's quite good. It's okay. This is an online version of an exhibition at the National Gallery of Rome. 27 artists and their take on environmental the challenges that we're facing currently. So if you've got people looking at either the environment or looking at art that want to look at some modern artwork, then I encourage you to go and have a look at this. Arts and Culture is phenomenal. There is an app that you can put on your mobile devices as well as the website. It's completely free. And I keep mentioning it because, like lots of things with Google, if not enough people use them, then it will go. So do please encourage all your staff to make as much use of this as they possibly can, because I think it's just a phenomenal resource. It's not just artwork, don't forget. It's lots of kind of online massive web kind of canvases of Google, of historical events and historical place people, and there's Google Places, which is like Street View for a whole load of places right across the world. So I really encourage you to go and look at it. It's a fantastic resource. So that's that. So you might or might not have seen these, but there are a whole load of training product series that Google released as webinars. They started in March, and there are still some to come in early May, the last few on the list. So these will link you direct to those particular things, but they will encourage you to register. If you register, even now, just register for them all, and you can go back and look at the recordings from the previous versions. So they are definitely worth going to see. I've been to the accessibility one, which is excellent. The data visualization one I went to see as well, which is excellent. So I intend to try and catch up with them all. I haven't managed them all yet, but they're good. Some really nice insights into how you make best use of these tools. So do please take the time to go and have a look at these. They are fantastic resource, and delivered by educators as well. It's not just the Google team. There are teachers in there as well. So do please go in there and have a good look. Thank you, Ian. Yeah, they are fantastic. Okay, so there's been a redesign of the Teacher Centre. So I'll just very quickly, I forgot the shortcut. Forgotten the shortcut. So if you go and look for Google Teacher Centre, you might have to spell centre TER at the end because it's the American spelling. And there's a whole load of new courses being added to it. They are live now. I did check this morning. They're available for you now. The education strands you'd expect. The courses that were there before, like the fundamentals and the advanced, they are still there. The new versions of them are still there. There are other ones added in as well. So one on practice sets, for example, and a whole lot of others. But there's also now some IT admin courses that weren't there before. I looked on Friday and got really confused because I'd seen them there, and it wasn't until I realized that I was signed in with an account that wasn't a super or wasn't an admin account. And when I changed it to an admin account, the IT admin courses appeared. So I think you need to be logged in as an IT admin to see the IT admin courses. But there's a whole load of courses in there to get, if you've got new staff or you've got apprentices that are helping you manage your domain and all that kind of thing. These are great courses, great CPD for them, and great for you to get them up to speed with how they might actually. Let me just quickly find the Teacher Centre link because it's quite right. I should have. I did have it. There, goo.gl/Teacher Centre will get you there. Okay. So these are definitely, I definitely encourage you to go and have a look. The fundamentals and the advanced, like I say, are still there, but there's new versions of those. Objectives are much clearer, I think, of the few that I've looked at. There are one or two that are still on the old interface. It's the Google suffer the same curse that we do. If you're trying to produce resources, then the people that make the resource updates it and the interface changed. So we've had a refresh last month, if you remember, of all the interfaces for docs, sheets, and slides to follow with their material learning design 3. And they'd forgotten to double check that. So there's one or two that are in the old version of Docs and Drive. But the buttons are almost exactly in the same place. It's just a visual redesign of the interface. So it shouldn't make a difference. But I suspect they might redesign them now, we've told them, and re-record those now, we've told them. But they're much more interactive. Some nice interactive little videos where you click on them and you get information and things. 20, 30 videos throughout. Little check at the end of each of the sections just to keep track of where you're doing and how you're getting on and things. So there's a whole load of I'm just reading David's comment here.
Sorry, I could probably have just said this out loud, but it is poor practice to be using your admin account for things other than admin activities. So if you're having to sign in as an admin just to get access to the content, that would seem to me to be counterproductive. And it also, the second part of my message was that it prevents people who aren't yet admins of a Google admin domain from learning the skills that they would potentially need to have in order to become an admin from a Google admin domain.
Yeah.
So I don't like that, if I'm honest.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I'm wondering if there's a solution to that. And the thing that's just occurred to me is I wonder if you could give, apprentices that you're not going to give access to your admin panel yet, you might want to give them help desk admin. I didn't check. I logged in as a super admin to get access. And I wonder if any admin role gives you access, maybe.
Possibly, but then it just increases the overhead for your team. And if somebody's not working in an organization that has access to a Google admin panel, my point still stands, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're absolutely right. We could create a role purely for this if we knew that what the trigger was for allowing that content to be visible and accessed, I guess.
Yeah. Ian, I'll take that on actually, and I'll follow up with Jenny about that, because that's really important, isn't it? That because it's against best practice, isn't it? You're quite right. You need to be signing to that account when you are doing those admin work, and not as a general thing. You should have another account for that. But anyway, so we'll ask and see if they've thought about that and whether they're considering any change. My suspicion is, well, I'm not going to go with my suspicion. I don't know what my suspicion is. Okay, so but nice new redesign, some nice new resources. Generally, yeah, good question from Dave about, is it the best way to do it? But actually, let's see what Google's saying. We'll get back to you. Might even be by next Tuesday when we do the admin things. And then the next update is on Monday, the 5th of June. We'll be back to the same pattern. We're just doing a different pattern of Tuesdays for both user updates and admin this month, because there are no Mondays, or there's very few Mondays. And apparently there's some big party going on next weekend that I'm not invited to, so I shan't be bothering with it. So I've got a very late comer of Sophie. Anyone expecting a Sophie? Anyone know who Sophie might be? Should we risk letting her in? We'll risk letting her in. Let's see what happens. And those are the updates anyway. Any questions, any thoughts from anyone about any of those? Any questions? Hi, Sophie. You've arrived at just precisely the time that we've finished all of the updates, but of course you will get them shared with you. But Sophina Love, anyone know who that one is? Can you see these as well, Chris? Do you know who these are? It's just odd that they're arriving so late.
Yeah, Paul, the only thing I was going to say, thanks for the updates. I think it's, if you can find out the information about the admin training course, that would be really much appreciated. But being able to go back on those training webinar series, I think is also good, because there's some great content, as you say, sort of put in those. The only other thing is, are there any public sort of roadmap things for any of the products about what's likely to be coming? And will there be much in the way of announcements at Google I/O, which is coming up on, I think, May the 10th?
Yeah, I've not heard anything. But I expect there will be. There normally are, aren't there? There's normally some very substantial announcements that happen there. But I don't know what they are. And I suspect that if we did know, we'd be under a non-disclaimer, so we won't be able to say until they announced it on the 10th anyway. But what you do have is you've got the Google Updates calendar, and I've just put a link to it in the chat. And you can look ahead a little bit at what's coming. So if you look at it now, you've got updates up to the 10th of May. So I don't know if there's any later. I'll just scoot forward a month. No, there's nothing published beyond 10th of May by the looks of it. So there's nothing in July, nothing in June.
No, that's great.
They give you a little bit of notice there, should you need it, but not a huge amount. But what I also do is I subscribe to the Google blog. And everyone can also do that, which is there. And this is, I mean, I go to other places. I check other trainers and innovators and their updates, because you think you've spotted all of them, and some updates don't necessarily always get announced. There's not a huge number that gets missed, but occasionally someone comes through that just gets missed in the updates blog for some reason. Either they don't think it's significant enough to merit its own individual page, I don't know. So I check other people like Eric Kurtz and so on and so forth, because the Ohio group there is really active, and they sometimes spot updates that I don't spot. I always check the EDU in 90 in case there's any new things in there that just gets announced in there, but it doesn't get announced other places and things. So I check more widely than those places, but I do use I subscribe to the updates blog, so they come into my inbox, and then I go through and work them into the presentation for today and for next week each month. That's what I do. So you're more than welcome to do those as well. But that are good questions, and yeah, I/O is on the 10th of May, so hopefully we'll hear something then. Any other questions from anyone?
I did. Sorry, I had to jump out quickly onto my other meeting, which I quickly decided was far less interesting than this one. So binned it off. But I did have a look for anything relating to currents on the admin panel, and you can see under investigation tool the logs in terms of how much use currents is getting, but it doesn't come up in a pretty graph or anything like that. So people could use the investigation tool to ascertain who's using currents, but it's not going to give you much more than that. It's going to be in log format.
Yeah.
From what I can see anyway. Sorry, I know you asked James a question, but then I had to jump off, so I don't know if he gave a better answer than that.
No, actually, we didn't get to an answer, but that's really useful. Yeah, okay. So there's a way to know. I mean, my suspicion is it'll be small numbers. I don't think it's been. I mean, I don't even remember the last time I went to currents. If I'm honest, it's not something I've used a great deal at all. I don't know if anyone else on the call uses currents at all. I mean, I did in the past, but it just kind of seemed to have died a death.
Yeah, I did in the past. I am the only user from all of our domains that ever used currents. So, so I've let myself know that it's closing. And,
excellent. Yeah, don't forget to remind yourself nearer the time as well.
I would. I'll set a reminder on currents. Oh, hang on a minute.
No, set it in tasks.
Yes,
not in your reminders.
Indeed. The other thing that I thought was really interesting, I do love the co-presentation in slides. Co-presentation, is that co-present tool in slides in particular? I think that's really useful, and I made the comment that that's coming useful for our team meetings. If I've had to jump off a meeting that I'm presenting to attend another call or to deal with some urgent business, it just means that you can quickly hand over to somebody else and they can take over from there. So it's useful for that, as you've just done to me. So I can quickly step you back, and there we go. I have control. I can prove that it works. But it is useful just to be able to do that, as well as looking, I think, more professional than the whole next slide thing, because sometimes, but as a presenter as well, you like to be in control in terms of knowing that you're on the right slide, and oftentimes it's, if you need to play a video or something like that, or pause it, then it just runs smoother, doesn't it? So it is a big improvement, I believe, that one.
So did the kind of the transport bar just pop up on your screen, Dave? Is that what happened? Yeah,
so I can see the slide picker on the right as I look at it. I could see yours previously, but now I can see it on the right. So it's it's useful, and it works very, very quickly.
Excellent. Very good. So that's neat, isn't it? I mean, quite right. I mean, like I say, I don't object to the next slide. It's a necessary evil, but now you've got a tool, you don't need it. It does make it. What I don't know is there a limit? I'm going to add you in, Chris. I know you can have multiple. Look. So have you now got it as well, Chris? Wow.
Yep. So yeah.
See?
Yep.
Fantastic. See, if you've got a team of people and you're moving across from, there's Chris moving it around. So if you've got a team of people, that's much slicker, isn't it? That's handy, isn't it? I mean, we've got some events coming up in June, haven't we? So it'd be nice to know that we can do that in those, because it makes it much slicker and work from a single deck.
Yeah, it's great if you've got, let's say, if Jamie and I are doing a presentation and there's 50 slides, Jamie will present 49, and then he'll hand it over to me to have a 2-minute chat on the 50th slide. But you can just let people know ahead of the event or whatever when you're running through it. You don't have to, move it forward for somebody else, do you? They can just do it themselves while they're communicating. So, that's really useful. Do you know how many people it's restricted to, Paul, or do you not know how many?
I don't know. I mean, we're at 3 now, aren't we? Ian, I'm going to add you now. I'm still getting the option to add them. So we're going to have a slide battle, can we? I'll be navigating from slide to slide. No, I want that one. Are you able to navigate now? There we go.
Yeah.
So I'm going to add you, Jamie. So I mean, are you going to need more than? Is that 5 we're on now? I think.
Yeah, 5. Yeah, it's probably that's probably as many as you're ever going to need, isn't it? But that's really good.
It is. It's fantastic. You've seen on my working slides now. That's me slide with all the different types of subscriptions, so that if I need to say it's only a particular type, rather than having to find that slide, I put that slide at the bottom of them all, so I can just copy and paste them in each time. Makes life much simpler for me. That is a great feature, isn't it? So how can I remove you? That's the question.
Mm.
Oh yeah, so the add a co-presenter now remove a co-presenter. So you can smooth them around, couldn't you? So you can if you got someone that's running the show, you could get someone to move to add the next presenter in ready rather than having lots all doing it in case someone accidentally presses a button. When one person's finished, you turn, take them off, and then the next person takes over. So yeah, so it's a really neat little tool. Excellent. Good. Any questions about anything else? Have you got access to? It's Theo and David. Have you both got access to practice sets?
I don't believe I have. I'll be honest. I haven't got the headspace to be starting pushing that at this stage, so I've not.
Oh, okay.
I've not looked. I've been too busy preparing other things. So it was just one thing that I didn't have to answer questions on if I didn't turn it on.
All right.
So I'm taking the approach that I do with operating system updates, where I let some other poor sucker find out all the bugs in it first, and then benefit from their hard work and competence.
All right. Okay. Theo, you've got practice sets?
Nah, not yet. No, I'm still fighting Cyber Essentials Plus at the minute, so I haven't got time for that just yet.
All right. Okay. Right. Well, if at any point you change your mind about that and you want to get in early, I mean, it's only June, July. It'll be my guess, maybe August at the latest, so it's ready for September. So you can always wait. But if you want it early, then just let me know. I'll resend the forms, and then you can. It takes a couple of days because I think they're getting lots of requests at the minute. So,
I did have a question though that I wanted to ask.
Yeah, go for it.
It's with regards to the Google regional settings. Sometimes one of my users told me last week that when they were using Google Sheets, their language had reverted to USA, and the currency was in US dollars. And I think this seems to happen every May, June time, and I don't know why. So I just wondered whether I did look into this, and there's no way to change these from an admin console so that everyone has got the British currency instead of the US dollars. I did ask Google about this last year, and they said to me there was no way of doing that. That individuals had to change their own. Has anyone heard this, or is it just me and my users here that we're having this? I know this usually happens when there's a licensing issue, but on this occasion, I know the users have got the right license, and there's no issues at all. So I just wondered whether anyone else has come across this.
I know you can change the language in the admin panel to English UK, and that should be the default one. Yeah. But it won't change the previous documents that already exist. It wouldn't change those. You'd have to manually change those. Is there a global for currency, Dave? Do you know?
No, not to my knowledge. The place that I would start looking there, it would be the local computer settings, because it may be that it's looking to what you've got set on the local device. So if you've got the regional settings on Windows, for example, set to be something other than UK, it may be that it's picking up from there. I'm sure I've seen that before on our domains, but not for a while. And I'm certainly not aware of anything through admin panel where we can set. I'm quickly searching for currency on the admin panel search tips at the moment. So if I say anything, I'll let you know. But I don't think there is anything centrally to be able to change for that.
Yeah, I mean, Google support did say that there was nothing like this last year. So I just wondered whether maybe the situation has changed, but probably not.
I think Google support would only look at your Google settings anyway, so they wouldn't necessarily be thinking to look at your local PC. So is it on a PC or is it on a Chromebook?
No, it was in a Google Drive. So they were doing a Google Sheets, so it's within Chrome browser.
But which device were they accessing?
Windows PC. But
so
this is
what I'm saying. If it's that would be where I would look first of all. I'm sure I've seen this in Excel rather than in Sheets, and I'm sure I've seen it whereby it's picked up some regional settings from the PC. But other than that, I'm struggling to give you any pointers, Theo. Sorry.
No, that's funny because these are domain joined PCs, so they pick up all these regional settings from group policies and things like that.
Okay.
Okay. I have had it in the past, not recently with updates. Recently, I'm always on a Chrome device, where when it's done the update, it's changed my language on the local device to English US. As soon as you notice it, I just move it, because of course the keyboard changes on a device when you change the device settings to a different language, because the app and things is in different places. So you spot it very quickly, and it's just quick to change it back. But it did not happened recently, but it did happen maybe 6-7 versions back. It jumped to English US. I don't know if that was a global thing, but whether that's part of it, whether that's happened again, I don't know. And we've just had an update to 112, so possibly it's done it there. I don't know. That might be part of it. But yeah, the currency is about individual. I mean, you can do it by individual document, can't you? You can actually go into a document and change the settings for that individual document, should you choose to.
Yeah. I mean, it usually happens when the user hasn't got the license. So if they haven't got a proper license, then normally they'll just revert to USA.
All right. So when they're on the fundamentals, it reverts to USA, and that is odd. I think it's a support ticket. I mean, you've got part of an answer that there might be something with the PC settings, mightn't there?
Yeah, I'll double check that. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Any other questions? Any other comments about the updates from today?
So I've just been doing a bit more digging in the admin panel. The only other place that I can see Zio is in, it's the default language for new accounts, and I'm wondering if there's an issue with the license. It might be almost reapplying that, and that's under accounts, account settings, profile, and then there is a language in there. So I believe you can set. I thought that was at an organization level rather than an OU level. That's the only other place I can see in the admin panel that might have any relevance.
Okay, great. Thank you, David.
No problem.
Excellent. So if there are no other questions, then I will say thank you very much for coming along. Lovely to see you all, as always. And the Techie Tuesday update is next Tuesday. If you're able at the same time, 12 o'clock, Chris will send out invites if he hasn't already. And we'll hopefully see some of you next Tuesday.